Hi, how are you? Thanks so much for joining me. Today's post is being posted as a merit, as a schos, that Yaakov Naftali ben Rachel Devora, Gilad Michael ben Bat Galim, and Ayal ben Iris Seshura should be released from captivity. They're currently being held captive. They were kidnapped somewhere in Israel a little over a week ago. And today's posting, today's video, is in their merit, and the learning that we do should be a schos for them, that they should be redeemed quickly. Let's not forget Shalom Rubashkin. Let's not forget Jonathan Pollard. Indeed, our learning should be a merit for all of them, and together we should be able to greet Mashiach, the Messiah, together with them in freedom from their captivity. So last week, what's going on? Last week I put a posting online about the importance of lighting Shabbos candles early, not lighting Shabbos candles, not lighting additional Shabbos candles, and so on and so forth. And a young lady sent a message on one of those posts, and she asked, if you'll give me a moment, I want to read it exactly. She writes, just because there's no precedent in halacha, why should one not do something? I mentioned that the reason why we don't light additional candles for living people is because there's no precedent in halacha for it. So this young lady asked, why is it that just because there's no precedent we don't do something? That's an excellent question. Thank you so much. You know who you are, and I hope the fact that you asked that question shows thought and care and concern for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, well, for all of our brothers. So in the same vein, I'd like to present the answer to you. The word halacha, the word for Jewish law, comes from the root of halach, to walk. Okay? What does halacha do? Halacha allows us and guides us how we're supposed to walk through life. Have you ever heard the expression, life is a journey? Right? So if you're not walking in the right direction, then it does make a difference. People say it's not the destination, it's the journey. But the truth is that if you're walking in the wrong direction, it very much is the destination, because you're going to wind up in the wrong place. So we have to make sure that we're walking in the correct direction. We're following halacha. How do we walk? And the halacha is exactly that. It's guidelines and directions where we're supposed to go. Okay, so let's understand that if something is against halacha, then we're going in the wrong direction. If there's no precedent in halacha, so the question then could be, well, why don't we create a precedent? Well, there have been movements out there that have tried to do that. And, the truth is, sadly, and I don't want this comment now to be misconstrued and taken to create entire arguments, because the truth is our teachings are meant to be authentic Torah teachings based on precedent and based on where we've come from before us. But there are movements that have tried to recreate the wheel and have failed miserably. They may at the moment be the larger segment of the Jewish population, but sadly, with 77% intermarriage rates outside of the more observant community. And even if you include the observant community in there, those intermarriage rates are at 52 to 53%. Recreating the wheel is not the way Judaism works. What makes Judaism unique over any other religion out there, or whatever other relationship out there that you'd like to focus on, and again, I'm not looking to focus on the negative, I'd like to focus on the positive. So please, if you're watching this video, don't start screaming at me, or don't scream at the screen, or don't start typing at me in all caps or something. Inbox me if you have something you'd like to share. But what makes Judaism unique is that we base our belief and our practice on precedent, on what's come before us. For something to be deemed authentic and real, it needs to be based on the Torah that we learn now, which in turn is based on the Torah which was learned in the generation prior to us, which was learned in the generation prior to them, in turn the generation prior to them, prior to them, prior to them, 3,326 years ago to when the Torah was given. Now you're going to tell me 3,326 years ago, that's ancient history, that's forever ago. And there were things that existed before the Torah was given, and so on and so forth. Well, I'll share with you two amazing insights. Number one is that 3,326 divided by 60 is just a little over 50, which means that there are no more, assuming an average lifespan of 60 years old. Now, we know that some people live into their hundreds today, and in the old days, people lived into their 20s and their 30s and their 40s. But if you want to assume an average lifespan, okay, of 60 years old, there are not more than 50 people connecting us to when the Torah was given. So, the Torah that I teach, the Torah that I try to give over, is all based on the teachings from my Rebbe, from my teacher. His teachings were based on the teachings from his teacher, from his teacher, from his teacher, from his teacher, back, all the way back. And there's a tremendous amount of overlap. My teacher is still alive. I was alive when his teacher was still alive. Okay, so it's not like I'm only he's telling me this is exactly the way it must be. It's my responsibility and privilege to be able to question and argue and discuss, as long as, I always say, be willing to ask as long as you're willing to listen to the answer. If you're not willing to listen to answers, then you're just looking to fight, then leave me alone. That's not what we're talking about here. But what makes something authentic is that we can base it on precedent. So in answer to the young lady who asked, do we not do something just because it's not based on precedent? There's plenty that we do that's not based on precedent. The world of social media is filled with likes and shares and pokes and etc., etc. If I see a picture that inspires me, what's the first thing I do? I usually share it with somebody else. The problem is that once I share my inspiration, I've often given it away. I feel like I fulfilled my obligation to act by clicking like, or I feel like I fulfilled my obligation to act by sharing a picture. Or even a tehillim, a request for prayers. If somebody sends me a text for prayers, you know what they say? They say, forward this to 20 people and ask them to pray. How many people forward it to the 20 people but forget to pray themselves? So, what happened this past Friday night is that a lot of people were asked to light candles. Somebody said to me, oh, I heard Rav David Avuchatzera said that there should be, and he told the mothers, if 3 million candles were lit, then something positive would happen. Okay, so let's assume for a moment that there are 13 million Jews in the world. Okay? Let's figure out that there's however many families in the world, okay? Let's look at just the number 3 million. 3 million divided by 2 is 1.5 million. Are there at least 1.5 million Jewish families in the world? So if each family lit the 2 candles that they were supposed to light for Shabbos and kept Shabbos for at least 10 minutes more than they usually do, imagine what that could accomplish. We don't know, and maybe by the time someone sees this video, Rav Avuchatzera will have explained himself what he meant. Did he mean that I should light 30 candles and someone else should light 20 candles and someone else should light 1 million candles? No! It meant that the Jewish people have to unify under one banner of what we've been doing all along, or what we're supposed to be doing all along. So when there's a call to light candles, or to bring in Shabbos early, whatever the case may be, okay, the halacha is not talking about adding on mitzvos. We're not supposed to add on. There's a mitzvah called Bal Tosef. Don't add things on to what we already have, to what's already established as precedent. Now again, there are those who spoke to their rabbi, and their rabbi said, yes, you could light another candle, okay, and say b'li neder, that you're not promising to ever do it again. It's a temporary measure. And very nice. Great. You can do it. I'm not saying you can, okay? But one who says you can, if their legitimate Orthodox rabbi, their local observant rabbi, the LOR, said that they can do it, I'm not going to say otherwise. I'm not here to argue with people. I'm here to share with you what everybody agrees to. That's all I'm saying. We do things based on what our teachers taught us. We want to make sure we're going in the right way. So if we do something that's not necessarily based on precedent, is it wrong? That's not the point. The bigger question is it right? And as we say, it's more important to be righteous than right. So let's try to do the righteous thing. Okay, what's the highest common denominator we could all ascribe to? In the merit of our learning, of our wanting to do the most righteous thing, may all of our boys come home safe, and those who are looking for them be safe as well. Kol Tov.